Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll talk with industry veterans Chris McGurk and Jana Winograde about their new venture, MicroCo. The pair explain why they are investing in the super short, low-budget microdrama series that are a red-hot trend in Asia right now. And we'll talk with Variety reporter Ethan Shanfeld about how AI is changing the business of product placement. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. Nexstar has set a deal to acquire Tegna for $6.2 billion. Nexstar already owns about 200 TV stations. Tegna owns 64 stations. This is a big gamble that the FCC is going to change the rules that limit how many stations a single company can own, because otherwise Nexstar will be way over the legal limit. This will be a long process at the FCC. Jimmy Kimmel has not stopped speaking out about the cancellation of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Love seeing the camaraderie between those two guys. Don't miss Clayton Davis's interview with Kimmel on Variety.com right now. And ESPN has parted ways with Spike Lee on his Colin Kaepernick docuseries. The culprit is creative differences. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now we turn to conversations with Variety journalists and industry leaders about news and trends in show business. Today my guests are Chris McGurk, Chairman and CEO of Cineverse, and Jana Winograde, who is CEO of MicroCo. They are teaming with two other well-known executives, Lloyd Braun and Susan Rovner, to dive into the new world of microseries. Chris McGurk and Jana Winograde, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your new venture.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much, Cynthia.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You two have come together in a new venture that is also backed by Lloyd Braun's Banyan Ventures. It's called MicroCo, and you are focusing on the emerging world of microdramas, which is definitely something that Variety has been tracking coming out of Asia in particular. Chris, let's start with you. You've been with Cineverse for over a decade. How did this venture come together?
Well, it came together very quickly, actually. And, we've been looking at Cineverse for new ventures at the leading edge of where the industry's going, where we could apply the assets that we built over the years. We own our own streaming and content management technology called Matchpoint. We've got over 100 engineers in India who keep advancing that technology, building AI tools. We've got 30 streaming channels with 80 million monthly viewers, more than 50 podcasts at this point, and a library of over 70,000 titles. And we used all those assets a year ago to launch a movie called Terrifier 3, which I think shocked the industry. And it did $90 million worldwide, and we spent less than $1 million in marketing because we used all those assets, these kind of new age assets, to market the movie in a kind of unique way and go after the fan bases that streaming channels and podcasts have really captured and our social media footprint. So we were looking for the next big thing to apply those assets against. And microdramas kept coming up. It seemed like a business that had just exploded overseas. And really what it needed was a platform here domestically in order to create and distribute that kind of content in a low cost and effective way. And so we moved really, really quickly to get a deal done with Lloyd and Company and bring Jana on board and announce this thing, because we think there's a huge advantage to being a first mover here domestically, as well.
Well, between the four of you, there is a lot of collective experience at networks, at studios. Jana, tell me how you plugged into this venture.
Well, Susan Rovner and I have been friends for 30 years. We started on our first day together at ABC. And after she left NBCU and I left Showtime, we really had a strong feeling we wanted to work together. We have incredibly complementary skill sets and incredible respect for one another. And we'd been really looking at a number of things to do. And when we heard about microdramas, it really felt like an area where we could take what we love to do best in storytelling and take that where the consumers are now consuming content. Because storytelling never changed. Great stories, people always want to see them. They always want to see characters. But what has changed is how the audience consumes that content and what they watch and on what devices and how they want to engage with it.
So let me be clear. You will launch this on the Cineverse platform, or you will have a dedicated MicroCo platform?
We are going to have a dedicated MicroCo platform, but that is built by Cineverse with all the incredible technology that they have.
We don't have a name yet for that platform. It's not going to be MicroCo. MicroCo is a working title or a corporate title. And I think the other thing that's important from a financial standpoint and a speed to launch standpoint, we spent tens of millions of dollars over the years already investing in the technology, in buying companies to build out our social network, to basically build out our channel footprint.
Let me ask you a fairly blunt question. How is this not Quibi?
I'll take that one. Katzenberg was prescient, but it's a whole different world than it was in 2020. 2020 was just a completely different time, not just in terms of COVID, but consumers have embraced short form vertical content in so many ways now, and in ways they just hadn't become really accustomed to at the time that Quibi launched. So whether it's YouTube or TikTok, they're used to the scrolling vertical behavior. It wasn't trying to bring people on and teach them something new. We're not trying to create that new behavior. We're expanding that behavior to include narrative storytelling. Even the format that we're talking about with microdramas, this is now an established format. It's been prevalent in China for many years. It's prevalent in Korea. It's prevalent in Eastern Europe. And they have brought their apps here, and those apps are doing incredibly well on the App Store. The truth of the matter is, starting a direct-to-consumer business is a really heavy lift. And that's what Katzenberg was trying to do. But we have this Cineverse flywheel, so we're not starting from ground zero. We'll have access to 150 million fans of genre content, including horror and romance, true crime, and anime, and the marketing tech to target them.
How will you produce it? Are you calling up showrunners and notable people, or do you see this as something that is coming more from the grassroots of the creator economy?
The way we're looking at this is a little bit different in approach. We are not trying to make premium television. We've done a lot of research into what is making micro dramas, and we're actually going to call them micro series because we're not just looking at dramas, but we've done a lot of research into what is making that genre of content work for the audience.
Will you work with union talent?
We are figuring out now exactly how we're going to be moving forward in the community, but we're really looking at this. We are not planning to do premium productions. We are looking at price points that are well below what a normal television production would be, and more in line with the microdrama budgets that the current microdrama apps are using. That probably will not be conducive to the guild talent or big stars. But as a general rule, we are really trying to stick with the business model that makes financial sense.
We all came out of the studio system, but we see the turmoil that's going on in the business now, where literally tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs. We're a company that prides itself on being a rebel company, employing people and creating a new business that is going to be great for the industry. I think is our first and foremost objective here.
In addition to our originals, we do plan to have a content creator vertical. The content creators are broadening out to give their fans a more 360-degree experience. And we feel like microseries can be a really good pillar of that experience. We're sort of looking at it as a bridge between the creator economy as it currently exists and the traditional studio-produced series, or maybe the better way to say it, will be the intersection of the Venn diagram, the overlapping slice. Because right now what's happening is the big studios and platforms are trying to fit creators and influencers into long-form, traditionally formatted content. And not only is that a lengthy process for such a fast-moving space, but that's not how or where the audience is used to engaging with them. What we can give creators is a more frictionless way to migrate their current audience over to the different creative experience. And then with the platform we're going to have, we're going to be able to give them the ability to have the social interaction they're used to having with creators. And that's not something you can do in the traditional space.
Will this be entirely subscription, or will you have some ad support baked in?
We will have a number of different monetization models. The one thing we're clear on is we're not going to have a very hard paywall when you first enter.
When do you expect the first of this content to hit the marketplace?
We're talking about launch first quarter of next year, first calendar quarter. And again, it's going to be a mix of licensed creator content and our own original content. And over time, our content will become much more of the percentage of the volume. So we're thinking probably by next April, we will launch the service. We got to come up with a name first, though.
We'll ask listeners to send in suggestions. I want to say thank you both for coming on, and we will absolutely stay tuned. We'll certainly rooting for you to bring some much needed jobs back to this creative community.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Ethan Shanfeld, who was a variety reporter based in New York. He became intrigued at how technology is changing the process of landing real-life brands in movies and TV shows. Ethan Shanfeld, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You filed a story recently that got my attention, why product placement in movies and TV is peaking. It's a great variety headline. Ethan, what was the spark for this story?
So what first drew me to the story was I met a young guy who works at UTA at a networking dinner, and he was telling me about a specific placement that happened in season 2 of The Bear. And what he said was basically that placement can make somebody's career. Like landing a deal like that, which the money behind all these deals is very kept secret, but a lot of them are 7-figure deals. They involve broad sort of ad spend across the network, and then also sometimes product placement. And so it got me thinking, I wanted to do a story on 2 or 3 of these big product placement deals that have happened in the past couple years on some of the buzziest shows on TV. And so he set me up with some people at UTA who work on these deals. And once we started talking about the deals, what I noticed was that I was sitting with a bunch of statistics people at a Hollywood agency. What UTA has done is hired people who specialize in product placement, and they've created this measurement system. So if their client is Coca-Cola, for example, which was the example with The Bear, they can go to Coca-Cola and crunch all the numbers and say, well, if you do a 30-second advertisement in, the NBA Finals, this is how many people are going to watch the ad. But
Right.
You decide to put a bottle of Coke Zero next to Io Adebri's character in a 3-minute scene in The Bear. We don't know how many people are going to watch it, but this might be more impactful for your brand. And so for that example specifically, Coca-Cola looked at some early scripts from season 2 of The Bear. They helped, pinpoint a specific scene that worked with their campaign, which at the time was called Recipe for Magic. The scene is Io Adebri's character they're sharing a slice of cake with her and her dad on her late mom's birthday. And it's very subtle. There's just a bottle of Coke sitting next to her. She doesn't drink it. The label is not clearly shown for much of the scene, but clearly that was the right move for Coca-Cola. And a lot of people in the business point to it as a very strong example of product placement.
It sounds like they're bringing data and AI tools to analyzing the optimal frames to put in product placements.
We talked a lot about specific examples of product placement, the trends that they're seeing in 2025. One of the things I put in the piece is that product placement has existed in Hollywood for basically as long as film and TV have existed. It used to trickle down from the networks. So for example, ABC might have a deal with Hershey chocolate, and it trickles down to the shows. So they would come to the producers and say, we need you to put Hershey's chocolate in this scene of Family Matters or whatever.
I can definitely attest to it. As recently as 10 years ago, if a producer had come to ABC and said, oh, look, I've done a product placement deal for my show, they would have gotten their hand slapped. This kind of stuff was completely controlled by the network, on the film side, by the studio. But your reporting is showing that there are now a lot more avenues to getting these deals done.
Absolutely. And what the product placement people are seeing is not only that the producers are soliciting these deals, but that they're enthusiastic about them. Right now, as budgets are being slashed in Hollywood, costs are ballooning, the producers are finding these avenues to sort of cushion that.
There's an interesting discussion in your story about the old solution to this would be to come up with a generic box of cereal that said cereal on it. In the world of hyper-realism that we live in, those kinds of fake generic products almost take you out of the story. It's better to see the box of Triscuits or the can of Coke or the bottle of Tide detergent.
Yeah, that seems to be the mindset of a lot of writers and producers.
I want to bring you back to something you said earlier, which was that doing a great product placement deal can be make or break for somebody's career. Is that for marketing execs? Is there an emerging, very specific statistician discipline here?
I think so, but one of the other things that made me laugh while reporting this story was if you ask any of these people what the holy grail of product placement is in the last few years, a lot of them will point to Barbie and the General Motors partnership with Barbie, because you had all these scenes with Barbie's dream car, you had all these cars on the freeway in that car chase scene in the real world. You know, nobody knew that Barbie was going to make $1.4 billion at the box office. So that deal is seen as this incredible example of product placement. But what one of the sources said was that 700 people take credit for it. So anyone who had any sort of hand in that deal is surely waving their flag and saying, I helped get the General Motors deal in Barbie. So to answer your question, I think there's a lot of people who sort of strive for that type of credit.
Well, I so appreciate your keen eye for a good story and a good trend. That is absolutely the sweet spot of what we're trying to get at every day here at Variety. And Ethan, thank you so much for all of your great contributions.
Thanks so much, Cynthia.
As we close out today's episode, here are a few things we're watching for. If you grew up in the 1980s, you'll want to watch the new Netflix documentary on Devo, We Are Devo. It's from director Chris Smith. We'll be diving back to the 70s later this week as we look at 50 years of industrial light and magic. My colleague Jaz Tanke will be on to discuss. Director Darren Aronofsky is busy this month. His Nat Geo docuseries Limitless, Live Better Now bows August 25th on Nat Geo. It's hosted by Chris Hemsworth. 4 days later, Aronofsky's Austin Butler crime drama Caught Stealing bows in theaters. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Ethan Shanfeld. It was edited by Aaron Greenwald. Sticks, Nicks, Hick Picks. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.